Today on $1,000 Guy, I'm going to show you how to replace the rear door speakers in your 2006 to 2010 Saturn Outlook. Let's start with the tools we're going to need. For this process, you're going to need a bunch of plastic pry door panel removal tools, a set of needle nose pliers, Phillips and flathead screwdrivers, some wire strippers, a black magic marker. I'm using a 1/4" drive, but you'll need a T30 Torx head bit and a 7mm socket, electric drill, various drill bits, electrical tape, soldering iron is optional with solder, and of course your new speakers. Go ahead and start by opening up your door. Of course you want to unlock it first. There are 3 pieces of trim that we need to remove to get access to all the screws that hold the door on. Up here on the pillar, behind the door handle, and on the door handle. This is where your new pry tool is going to come in handy. You just need to gain access behind the panel, pry gently, and they should pop right out. To remove the door grab handle one, the spot to gain access is underneath of it. For behind the door handle, you can see that little notch right back there. If you have a smaller pry tool, this would be best, otherwise use a flathead screwdriver. Next up, we have 3 Torx bit screws that we need to remove. These are size T30. There's one behind the door handle, one in the grab handle at the top, and one at the bottom. You will need a long extension for this unless you have a handled Torx bit screwdriver. Now that we've got all of our screws out, go ahead and push down the door lock, because that'll make it easier to lift everything over top. And we're going to need our pry tool again. You're going to have to force your way through this one, unfortunately. So take your time, try and look behind the door to see where the push pins are that hold the door panel onto the door frame, and just slowly pry against them. Try not to break anything. Once you get enough of the clips around the lower half of the door panel, you should be able to pry the door panel away from the frame of the door, and then lift up gently on it to try and get it over top of the door lock. As you can see, I still have one of these clips holding me up. It's over here somewhere, but man, I've tried prying on that thing for a while now and it's pretty tough. So I found out that if I just pull back the door assembly on this side, we can see our speaker. So maybe we don't have to take the whole door panel off, because you're also going to have to remove the door lock assembly, which is right there, and a couple other wires and things like that. So I think we're just going to get the right size socket and take this out. The stock speaker is held in by one 7mm screw. Go ahead and remove it. With that one screw removed, you should be able to pull the speaker forward and up, because its receiver tab is down there at the bottom. So just move your speaker out into a workspace, and then we need to remove this connector. It's a fairly simple connector. Push down on the front of the white part and then pull back, and it should come right out. Probably going to want to use 2 hands for this. Okay, there's no sense in doing this without taking the door panel off, so you have to reach down and squeeze together the one side, which will be pointing towards the end of the door. Squeeze that and it pulls right out. That was really simple. This one, on the other hand, is the mechanism at the top for the door handle. Now, you see how it's flanged right in there? What you have to do is squeeze these ends together. You can actually do this with your fingertips if you don't have a set of needle nose. You can squeeze them together and it just pushes right out, and the ball will fall out of the mechanism, which is right up here. When I go to reassemble the door, I'll make sure to note that. So I was going to do the rest of this assembly without taking the door panel off, obviously, but then I came into this problem. The issue is that I can't take the stock plastic piece off of the original speaker to reuse to hold it on in place here. So what I'm going to have to do is get this thing where I want it to be, and then we're going to have to drill some holes. So the next thing I'm going to have to do is line up where I want the speaker to sit, and then I'm going to use a Sharpie to mark the 4 holes, hopefully 4. We'll settle for 3, but we're going for 4 holes to screw the speaker in place now. Now that we've got our 4 speaker holes, it's time to drill them. Just wanted to point out halfway through this install that these clips came with these Sony speakers. I'm not sure what model number they are, probably doesn't matter. But the idea is, you see where I've got one of my holes marked out? You take this, and with the flat end facing towards you, slide it in place, and the back of it is actually going to catch the threads of the screws. I'm sure this is super common for everybody else, but I'm just experiencing it for the first time. And that's just genius. So we're going to be able to use all these all the way around. It comes with 8 in the set, so we're set. All right, let's drill some holes. I backed off my pressure to make sure that we wouldn't punch through the other side of the door. Remember not to punch through the other side of the door. Ready? Now that we got all of our holes drilled, I suppose we could mount up the speaker to make sure that it fits, but we're just going to skip that, and now we need to wire up the speaker to the stock harness. This will involve some cutting and crying. Go ahead and pull out the stock speaker harness. And we're just going to go backwards a little bit here and just cut that clip right off. Next we need to unravel the tape so we can expose the nougaty delicious wires. Nougaty center. Go ahead and strip back a little bit of the wire. I am by no means a wiring expert, so if you've got a friend that knows how to wire things, call them up. Now the better way to check this would be to use a multimeter to check to see which one is positive, which one is negative. I'm going to do it the cheap way, and I'm just going to touch the contacts to the side of the speaker here until I know which one is which. So I've got the car on and the radio on right now, and my guess is going to be that the dark blue wire is positive, light blue is negative. Let's see what happens. Alright, I was correct. Dark blue is positive, light blue is negative. So now, the new speaker also comes with wires, so let's go ahead and wire these in. There's a larger connector for the positive, a smaller for the negative, so you can't screw them up, unless you try really hard, I suppose. I was just going to twist the wires together and tape them, but it's not my car, it's somebody else's car, so I'm going to take the time to do it right. So I'm going to go ahead and solder and shrink tube these connections back together. That way anyone who has to deal with this in the future is like, hey, the last guy actually did a pretty decent job. So now they're shrink tube together, and we're also going to slap some electrical tape on there because now the connections won't touch each other. So we should be able to plug our speaker in now. Probably test it one more time before final assembly.
3 station on iHeartRadio.
Sounds like it works. Let's go ahead and do the final install. We'll go ahead and slide all of our clips in. Just try and get it centered up as much as possible, and then sink these screws right home. Alrighty. Final check before we put the door guard back on. Sounds like it works. Alright, let's put the door guard back on. So take the ball, slide it into the metallic receiver, pull it back so that it slides the cable through, and then push the connector back through the assembly. So it's just the opposite of that for reversing it. Next, we want to make sure that we plug our connector back in. It only fits into one spot. Just make sure it goes back in the right hole and it has that click noise. We're going to pop this tab back in best we can. And then, the final thing we need to do is slide the door lock mechanism back in place. This one's going to take you a couple attempts probably. Get that there. Get it back on the window track all the way. And then just snap all your receiver clips back in. Okay, so then for snapping in all the clips, you just kind of go around the door, bang on it till all the clips pop back in place, and then we'll put on this A-pillar piece, screw the door back in place with the Torx bits, and then put the cover panel on here and the cover panel on here. So everything's back together. I hope this video helped you out. If it did, maybe give it a like or a thumbs up. Thanks for watching this episode, and I'll see you on the next one.